Hey, hello everybody. Good afternoon from Mauritius. Have the pleasure to introduce Jalloud Fakir Mahmood from ER Group in Mauritius, and great to have you. Jalloud, thank you for joining and thank you for being part of the Global Connection. Jalloud, we see in your bio quite an interesting career. So currently you're working with ER Hospitality Group. I know we're going to hear a lot more about that in your presentation. You've had a 25-year career, looks like just about in the airline industry working with Air Mauritius, working on revenue management across that company and others, along with digital and business intelligence. You've worked on many different airline transformation projects with McKinsey and other consulting firms, and you've got some fantastic educational background with MBA and other masters, and also a chartered accountant. So, Jalud, I know we're excited to hear from you. If you're ready to go ahead and share screen and present, thank you for kicking us off.
Thank you very much, and it's my pleasure to be with you this morning, I guess. So Mauritius is a small island in the Indian Ocean, and I do have the luck to work for ER Hospitality, which is one of the major hotel and leisure groups in Mauritius. Currently, I am the Chief Revenue and Pricing Officer at ER Hospitality, and I have the chance to also lead a department which we call the Central Reservation Office. Now, who we are,
And Jalud,
we
sorry to interrupt you, but before we get going, I think the background's blocking your image. If you don't mind coming a little bit closer to the camera so we can see you.
okay, okay, okay.
I'll
So,
let you know.
Unless it's here.
mm, just a second. Oh no, I think we still having some problem. Can I
Jalloud,
just yes?
Mm.
so hello, I'm back here to support. If you go on your, I believe you were using the camera on your mobile, right?
Yes.
So we one of the options is to actually deactivate the background. If you go on your configuration on your mobile on Zoom, you can check out this the, there is a more button, and then you have a background and effects where you can actually put none on background. So we will see you.
Password.
Okay,
The
go
meeting
go.
password?
Look at your screen here on the Zoom on your mobile. Scroll the options you have underneath. There you have
Huh?
many options. One of them is the last one is more
Yeah. Guys,
and background and effects.
can we just proceed with what I've got and let's forget about the camera. This is getting
Okay,
very problematic. Let's just move on with the presentation. I don't want to delay all of you again. So so may I just proceed?
okay.
Okay. So who are we? I know we would like to see my face, but let's just afford not to do that for the time being so that we don't delay everyone. So who are we? We own and we manage hotels. We have about 10 establishments and we have brands like Heritage Resorts, Veranda Resorts, a wide range from our flagship Heritage, L'Hôtel Fair, luxury, down to a three-star hotel, which is Veranda Tamarin, as well as our adult-only Jewel Veranda Polyvirgin, and also a business hotel. So it's quite varied. We're not just a hotel brand. We've got two golf courses. We've got numerous restaurants, including two signature restaurants. We've got leisure activities, including the brand Chamarel Geopark, Seven Colored Earth. We've got Bellome Nature Reserves, and we are a destination. We are not just a hotel. And I would invite you to our establishments whenever you plan to visit Mauritius. We've got spas. So, hashtag symbiosis. We are across different business units that complement a unique customer journey. We are in golf, we're in luxury, and we're also in multiple segmentation. Now, this is very nice, but it does lead to some challenges, especially when we have some operational departments. Now, let me introduce the Central Reservation Office. 80% of our hotel bookings originates from B2B agents, tour operators, and online travel agents. Most of these are not connected, meaning no seamless flow from their booking systems to our own property management systems. So most bookings are sent through email and manually and has to be input by a team, which is the Central Reservation Office team. Now, the criticality of this process is that if these bookings are not handled properly, it leads to a problem of fulfillment and a bad customer experience. Very important, it has a financial impact as we cannot bill the tour operators for the rooms that they have sold on us. And moreover, they have an important role to support revenue management. They are our revenue management support unit. They do create some additional revenue, which is beyond the normal process. So we had all the reasons in the world to ensure that they are as effective and as efficient as possible. Now, this leads to some challenges we identified. First of all, it is one of the departments which is subject to the 4 Vs on a daily basis, the famous 4 Vs. So volume, transactional volume exceeding 100,000 items on a yearly basis. Variety, more than 15 different subtasks under 6 groups, including some tasks done on behalf of the operators. Variability, peak activities with plus 25% in peak and minus 35% in low season. Visibility, there's a time limit on all tasks, including after normal hours, weekends, and holidays. It is a primarily manual process, as I explained. It's data entry in a booking system for emails and phone calls. Based on a detailed time and motion analysis by the revenue team and confirmed by our lead management project team, it is an overburdened team. There was no slack for peak activities, 25 to 35% additional work. And when there are absences or any additional process, it was simply under the water. High margins of error, though that was not systematically being recorded. And the recommendation has been to increase the headcount by 20-25% in that team. Now, the audit that we did came into the process re-engineering and review the number of people, that is, recruit more upwards, do some error management, measurement and proofing, and evolve to a resource pooling approach. Now, how did we do? First of all, we did a time and motion study. I won't go into detail into this very nice table, which is very hard to find. I just wanted to show you the takeaway from this is that we sat with the people line by line, understood every single process, and we timed using a stopwatch the amount of time that they did to effect each of these tasks. And in the end, I just summarize it through that. This is the pie chart of it. So bookings of tour operator input about 30%. They were correcting each other because there were a lot of errors. And we have online travel agent booking maintenance, which means that when we have these bookings, we have to go and ask for payments, and there were some validations that needed to be done, and there were queries and quotation. What came out is that 70% of the man-hour utilization was concentrated into 3 activities: input and management of OTA bookings, input and management of tour operator bookings, and error correction. So opportunities for streamlining actually existed through a new PMS, which we just implemented, and existing analytical tool. It was a challenge between process engineering and reporting. So I'll just move on to the next one. Our approach was, first of all, it is people that we are dealing with. We thank and reassure them. We make them buy in and participate. We set our objectives: eliminate wasteful time in order to keep room for peak activities, resource constraint, and additional tasks. We focus on more revenue impacting tasks. We anticipated additional volume, so it was more like a steering approach. Re-engineer to more analytical steering of operations. And we made it clear that no one was losing their jobs, because often we associate lead management with people losing their jobs. And this is the wrong thing to start with. So our areas of focus was, first, reduce manual intervention. The second was productivity steering using data visibility to even out productivity. Third, reduce error rate, automate and eliminate some tasks, and all with IT implementation at the center. It is a step-by-step approach that we took: investigate, evaluate, implement. Rome was never built in a day. but we wanted to use a minimalist approach. I want to focus half a second on that one. It was all process-based. We did not await grand system implementation, at first at least, until we have we have completed the first phase. So how to change the process to manage with the existing system until the next step. And this is what I wanted to show you in this presentation. First of all, minor systems implementation to reduce manual input of bookings. We built IT interfaces. OTA interfaces for heritage bookings did not exist before. This saves about 4 minutes per bookings for 4,500 bookings, and it saves 8 week works straight away. We optimize existing interface for the Veranda resorts that improve additional 1 minute. Again, 3 weeks work done. What we did not attempt was a potential savings of up to 3 minutes over 26,000 TO bookings, even though now we have not implemented this because it relied on heavy system implementation, but we wanted to go for a minimalist approach. Even on the minimalistic approach, there were some dependencies. First, there was a new property management system. So the phase one of the solution is still to be presented next week with us. I'm just actualizing that. And the plan B was to look for a solution with another system provider by emulating an OTA frame. I won't spend time on that, but our target is June 26. The potential saving for this part was 11 weeks achieved to date out of 46 weeks potential savings. So only 20% of the ideal saving. But the 80-20 rule was such that we start now and then we do the rest later. What I want to emphasize here is that it may be frustrating to chase system design and implementation, especially for a service department, but we don't stop. We re-engineer our processes and the gold nuggets may actually be there. And this is how you also optimize with investment on existing systems. Now, some additional work on productivity that we had. People had drastically different productivity levels in terms of booking inputs. The manager knows, but we had no measure of such productivity. Everything was manual. It was just their gut feel, and we all depended on that. Now, what could we influence if we could not measure? Literally nothing. So the objective here was steering our productivity. This time, no big system changes, just some recalibrations, some additional flexible fields, and the use of a marvel of nature, which is Power BI. So this is what we do. So I've just anonymized the people, the users. So now we look at productivity, who is doing what over a week, and we know who is doing better or less in 1 week. So here already in this one, there are a few guys who are actually taking us for a ride. Maybe they were on leave or whatever, but we could see. So we are able to monitor bookings input productivity by staffs. The monitor became the gauge to eventually enable resource pooling, which will happen later. We'll spend some time on that. Resource pooling against specialization by categories drives a higher overall productivity by rationalizing resources and betting on the most efficient resources. But there was one more issue to tackle, and that was a horrible one: error rate. Okay, so when people do manual input, there are errors. Now, these bookings have both a customer impact and impacts other processes downstream, like data management. So what we do, we employ 2 senior persons whose tasks were to prowl into all bookings, identify errors. They do that twice, and people correct their mistakes. So that was a rework. Now, this is human. If someone is checking behind you, your level of care could be less. So there was an urgent need to render people accountable and to track the errors. The managers said there were a lot of errors, but there were no data to support, let alone tracing these by type of errors and to people. All we knew was that the rate controllers were the busiest person in the department, I would say, in the world. And for us, we could not pool resources to do what we were doing unless we have corrected these error rates. Otherwise, they would infect the process everywhere. So step 1, assess the extent of errors. So we initiated the measurement of error rate for FO. FO is our PMS that we are using, and visualize for a Power BI model. So we just enable a flex field that people could identify whenever there were errors. And gosh, it was 8.25% of error rate in January, up to 19% for heritage resorts and 3.8% for veranda. Now we are able to attribute this error rate to the staff committing these errors, and the error type were primarily pricing errors due to manual pricing through rate sheets. So step 2, we targeted to shift them from 8.25 to 3%. And in so doing, we would be having 2,000 less errors in a year. And with 20 minutes detection and correction time, that equals 18 weeks work. And to date, the error rate for October has reached 2%. And that is equivalent to 25 weeks savings achieved if that is sustained over 1 year. And we were confident enough to eliminate the double auditing, and that saved another 15 weeks work. Now, from detection, we could take actions that was people, process, and systems, and the total savings is about 40 weeks work. However, 2 senior staff members are still auditing for errors to eliminate these tasks completely. So we had to move to another step. Now, this is our dashboard. Okay, you can see we have got the bookings, we've got the error rates, and there's some bit of French in it. And we can see already in January we were 8.2%, and in March we were 7%. So that was not going very well. But if you go to the right completely, it's 2.1%. And what is also important is that we can see who are those who are committing these errors, and you can see how drastically they improved actually. So people who were doing 24% errors now are doing 4.2% errors. So that worked. So before 8.2%, now 2% error. Before it was Halloween, now it is Christmas. So, but we still have got room to improve. Now we were ready for pooling. What is pooling? Currently, in our organization, you've got a brand which is Veranda and a brand which is Heritage. So we have people specializing into the Heritage brand and people who are specializing into the Veranda brand. Now, when those who are into the Veranda, there are about 4 of them doing Veranda, the VR, 3 of them doing Heritage, which is the HR. The dependency was too much on specialized stuff, and they were less substitutable. So when you do a lean management process, you should expect that people would not be always happy with the changes that happen, and that is human. And people sometimes will grumble, and all that you want to do is, while still depending on them, you don't want them to be indispensable, because you want to be able to ensure that the flow is even. And what also happened is that we were capping their productivity level inadvertently. So how about pulling them? So you unconstrain their potentials and then you reward the best. So in the interim, we did a hybrid approach. So 4 people were pulled and 3 people were still specializing, and we see what happened. Now, after having done that, we just started on that, by the way, for about 1 month. We found that it's working very well. And in 1 month's time, we are going to do full pooling. Then what we are going to do, we are going to put an incentive scheme based on 2 main parameters. Simple. One is productivity and one is error rate. So people might be good at productivity and they just be fast and so on, but then they commit errors. So the productivity level will increase the incentive, but the error rate will reduce the incentive. So they will put in the right balance, and you've got the managers there who've got their steering wheel in their hands with Power BI in front, who are able to steer the way we go, and that's true because they also have got an incentive to drop down the overall error rate and to increase the overall productivity. That closes the less dependent part on of what we wanted to do. And the thing is, the less system dependent part of what we wanted to do. But the thing is, we have not recruited anyone. We needed to recruit 25%. And I understand from the managers that recently people have been able to take their leaves. So it's working somehow. And from a little bit of resistance in the beginning, they are now seeing the results, and people are relatively more happy and they are able to take leaves. Now, how do we get from here to next? It is more IT centric to get another step. And of course, it's going to be a bit more costly. So why do you go for the costly items when you have not taken a full account of the less expensive ones and more process-oriented one and the less difficult one? That's the 80-20 rule at work. First, the famous word, AI. Okay, since a few years, we have been hearing more and more AI. You remember there is an email that people are receiving, and from this email, they are inputting bookings into a system. Now, with AI, if we are able to pick up from the email the details to get to put the emails of the details of the email into a booking table, and that booking table can be interfaced through the current platform or a new platform that can be developed. So 46,000 bookings is just being done like that seamlessly, but it will cost us some money. It will cost us some investment. We could have done that from the beginning, but I have to say we were on trial. We were on trial basis, and also we did not want to put the cart before the ox. People have to believe in it, have to walk through it before we get into the capital outlay that is required. And today we also have the possibility that no one inputs any pricing into the system, any pricing code where they have been doing the most errors. So a system that picks up booking details from booking tables, then it goes to an API which connects to our booking system. This has already been developed, and it has been developed for some other department who is doing direct sales quotation, what you call the auto code, and returns the correct pricing to that booking, and we add that to the interface table. So suddenly, if above works well for 75% of the time, then we have a situation that the two rate controllers' time is not required. I don't say that they will lose their job, but it adds a higher end of their job. It improves their job. Now they have a job of systems management instead of a job of correcting the mistake of others. I am more confident that I will retain these people better than if they were doing error correction of other people. So from a team of 9, which had to go to 11, now we are even resilient to take increased activity if we have, for example, additional capacity and we are not recruiting anyone. And what is more important is that it will no longer be load dependent or variability dependent. So at least 2 of the V's are actually under control, and there's a third one being more and more control. And what is important is that we are now able to control and steer the level of activity in the way that we want in a more controllable manner. And so let me just move that. I moved to the conclusion of my presentation. Probably I have not spent the full amount of time that was allocated. So the conclusion, people variability, things that we normally cannot control, error profiles, productivity, absences, okay? There's a direct correlation between volume and error rate. There's always a balancing act between streamlining and creating additional work. Sometimes by trying to reduce and streamlining a process, we create some additional work. So the net is what should matter. Data analytics should be at the center of the universe, okay? And let us not underestimate system, not system, let us not underestimate dependencies. This is not just from systems providers, it's a chain. Whatever happens at one end of the chain impacts someone at the other end of the chain, and you can actually go into a circle and a spiral. Start with a minimalistic approach. This is my honest and humble advice. Start with a minimalistic approach. Start with your processors. You search for the gold nuggets before trying or attempting even to take the gold mine, because the gold mine is going to cost you a lot in terms of equipment as well. Be lean, but never forget the people. They are the actors. I always say that there is a dreamer. That's me in my department. By the way, this is how the people call me. Then there is an engineer who makes it happen. And also there's a Ferrari driver, the people who need to win the race. So that's how the trio works at ER Hospitality. That's it for me. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any question that you might have.
Thank you very much, Jalloud. Looks like lots of rounds of applause from the participants. So thank you all for joining. I know we need to get back over to the main stage, but Jalloud, I know probably you have your email address as part of the online panel. So if anybody would like to reach out and continue the discussion, please do that. But thank you again
Yes,
for joining.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye for now.
Bye.